You all have experience in the political arena, different levels of experience, but highly engaged, all of you. And I want to start with Margaret. You've been a freedom fighter. 30 years in politics it's been for you. You've been in government. You've been expelled from ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe for speaking about the electoral system. And then you came in as an independent, voted in, a female independent. A very powerful experience for you. But knowing all the challenges that African women in politics face, what are your thoughts on what Africa needs to do to start changing the narrative in terms of women's representation?
It's a long story, but to cut the story short, what I want to say, what is most disturbing is the politics of manifestos, party politics. What I want to say is that the political party politics has affected many women, and it has even affected the development of women and empowerment of women, in the sense that there is no time when women can come together and focus on women's agenda because of their political party manifestos. They have to toe the line. So for as long as that exists, this is the greatest barrier that we have. The political party manifestos, everyone else, every woman has to pay allegiance to their manifestos. So as a result, there is no way they are going to reach a common ground because they are operating on a parallel line. And I want to say the only option, which I will explain further, is becoming independent, because you have no allegiance to any individual but your electorate and your constituents. And that's and what I'm referring to now becomes the women's constituents.
Very quickly though, running as an independent presents huge challenges in terms of networking, reaching the masses, finances.
True, it's the greatest challenge and it's not easy. Not only for the financial part of it, but to make people understand the role of an independent. People are used to a political party system, and to convince them that an independent can also make a difference, it's not easy. Because, you know, they are used to political party system. So, but I think everything else we have to fight. Have a look. At an age of 15, I was a freedom fighter, held a gun, and I moved away from that and became a civil servant. From there, I became an MP. It's a process. We have to now, as feminists, we have to make sure that we raise awareness, we educate our people, our women, so that they know there's other option. And the option that I'm referring to is for women to go independent. That's the only way you can promote a feminist approach in terms of representation.
Thank you for that, Margaret. Coming straight to you, Rabia, in your experience, what do you think is the biggest barrier and how should it be addressed to women's representation in politics?
Actually, there is no one barrier. If it is one, it will be easy. But there are plenty of barriers that make women feel that she's not in her field, and the most important thing is that she has to start with herself, because women underestimate themselves. Women think that men should be in politics and they should be at home doing things, children and home things and stuff. So it starts with yourself. You have to start with yourself. You have to convince yourself that you can do it and you can be a politician. And as I said, that statistics show that women are better than men in politics and in management of the government. So why not to convince yourself and to be proud of yourself of what you are doing? Actually, I'm proud of myself. I don't need to anyone to be proud of me or men to be proud of me. You have to believe in your capacity.
So self-belief and validation. You don't need external validation.
Yeah. This is the most important things. But there are other barriers. This is the emotional or psychological, but there are physical, like financial like violence against women, like threats, because women are insulted either from her counterparts, male counterparts, or from their society. Can really stop women from doing this.
Let's talk about your experience. And you became a member of parliament at the tender age of 22. Been there now for 3 years, is it?
Yeah.
How did you achieve that?
Yeah, actually, as I said, it starts with a question. Why not me? This question, really, with this question, my story starts. So I start to investigate myself.
When did you ask yourself the question?
Yeah, it was when I was not thinking about running or elections or anything. So I have to tell you that. So I was going to the election office so that I can participate in the process of election and help the process of election. It's not running, but to observe, as an observer, to not worry about the election, and it's a freedom and democratic election. So when I see the list of the candidates, I figure out that they are all old men. So I said, where are women? We were in the front lines in the revolution. Where are they? Where are young people? I said I have to forget about this participation in the election process, and they have to run for parliament.
So it was a responsibility you felt you needed to do because women were not there, they were not present, they were not engaged, and you realized women was you.
I wasn't thinking about winning. My aim and my objective was that I participate so that people see that there is a woman who is participating. I wanted to raise the consciousness and the awareness of women culture, that women participate in culture, because it starts with me. I have to start it that other women can do it too.
When you speak to the electorate, what do they tell you in terms of why they voted for you?
I went to places that I believe that men didn't go, even. I did an excellent campaigning, and there was staff with me, good men with me. There were feminist men with me who really supported me, and thanks God, because I found these people to support me. And it was a list election, list system, and I was on the top of the list, and the other men are behind me and they support me.
Wow. So you made networks and connections even among the men, and you went to places that the other candidates were not
I was the
to.
youngest among the candidates on my list, but I was on the top.
Let me come to Gigi. From that inspirational story of a very young candidate, Gigi, you are even younger than the 22 years old, and you plan to be in office, presumably. But even more important than that, you've been engaged since you were a child in trying to enhance women's representation. Tell us a little bit about your experiences so far. Does society take you seriously? And do you see yourself in office soon, or do you think it's going to be a long journey?
Yes, thank you very much, Julie, for that. It has been a very long journey for me. I established my charitable foundation when I was 5 years old, and I can tell you that it has been the most challenging thing ever in my life, hence it being the less road traveled. It took 7 years for me to register my charitable foundation. And you know, for me, the biggest challenges have always been age and my gender. I've always been too young to achieve, too young to dream, and I've always been the wrong gender to enter into different places, okay? After it took 7 years for me to register my foundation, I also had a challenge about me being an activist and advocate, particularly at school and in society, because, you know, we categorize, we have stages of what we deem to be a child, an adult, a mature person. So I was just that child who was expected to be watching cartoons on TV, yet I was out there speaking out about children's rights, responsibilities, what is happening in society. I was once told to stop doing philanthropic work because it was said to be a duplication of what the government was already doing. Yet it is all in clear view that although our government is putting in efforts, it can never be enough. We are citizens and we have the social responsibility to contribute to the development of our country. And then I was told that I shouldn't sing the national anthem of Botswana during my philanthropic and activism initiatives. Why? Because I was nobody who does not deserve the honor of singing the national anthem of Botswana. I was told to stop doing charity and advocating for children's rights. I can tell you right now as I'm sitting here, I've been taken to a number of psychologists in Botswana and South Africa because many people thought I may possibly be mentally unstable. And to an extent that even my parents started to question my sanity. But you know, it's important to accept that there are people who are gifted in different ways. When you could see Wolfgang Mozart playing the piano at 4 years old, you'd be amazed and think, a 4-year-old playing a piano at that age, where did he get all that? It's the same as me when I was 5 years old and I stood in front of an audience and I said, this is right and this is wrong. Society, what are we doing about these challenges? It is the same as me as 5 years old and saying there's something that needs to be done. And I'm not going to point the finger at the government or at NGOs. I am going to do it, starting with the man in the mirror, as Michael Jackson said. So I think for me, the biggest challenges have been the misconception or perceptions that in society culturally also have been a big problem. I can tell you that when I was just about 11 years old, I decided to go around the country addressing khotla meetings. Now, khotlas, for those who may not know, are traditional settings where they're led by the chiefs. It's a gathering place traditionally where women come in dresses and skirts. You can enter when you're wearing pants. And then also usually the men speak and the women just listen. And when I went and said to the whole nation of Botswana that I wanted to go around addressing khotla meetings, I can tell you that even agencies, NGOs that stand up for children's rights were saying there is no way you are doing that because you are too young and you are a girl. But despite that, there was no law in the Constitution of Botswana that could stop me from doing that. So I went ahead, and I can tell you that in one of the khotlas I went to, when I entered, even though my name Khokhontlejang is quite a feminine name, I think the expectation was that a boy would come who's also much older. When I walked in, everybody stood up and looked and said, is that a girl and a child? And the chief said, there is no way you are addressing a khotla meeting in my khotla, because I thought that you are older and let alone a man, and even probably belonging to the royal family. And I just said, just give me 5 minutes. If after 5 minutes I'm talking about how as children we are being abused and how our parents should stop using corporal punishment, or I'm going on and on about what I've seen on Sesame Street, I give you the full permission to kick me out of your khotla. And I can tell you that that chief, after I addressed the khotla meeting, he called me back the second time to address an even bigger gathering in his khotla. And the following year, during the Independence Day celebration, I was the guest speaker.
And so let me ask you, and I'll bring this question to Margaret and to Rabia as well. What examples have you seen across Africa that inspire you, that make you feel energized because you can see now the possibilities for women on the continent?
Definitely. Well, I believe starting locally before globally, so I'll start in my home country. I've been greatly inspired by a woman of substance, Honorable Dr. Margaret Nasha, who's the first Speaker of the National Assembly of Botswana. We also have Dr. Atalia Molukume, who's the first woman Attorney General of Botswana. And then going out, I've been inspired by the great and late Dr. Wangari Maathai for having the Nobel Peace Prize, and it shows that it is indeed possible for us as African women. I have been inspired by Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf because it shows that it is possible for us to have the first in Africa and probably even the first in the whole world. And right here as I am in Malawi, another great source of inspiration, Her Excellency President Joyce Banda, with such inspiration that may look like it's not a lot of numbers to inspire a lot, but it's inspiring a whole new generation of young women who have in the minds that they can, it is possible. Because you need to know that for us to walk that road, we need to have seen the footprints that somebody has been there. And then we have confidence, we have strength, we have belief. That's why these people are called inspirations, motivators, success stories. Because I look at myself and I look at President Joyce Banda and I ask myself, when she was my age, probably she had the same mindset I'm having right now. And if she did it decades later, why can't I do it 2 decades less?
When you look at Africa right now, what is exciting? What organizations are doing the right things? Have you seen policy changes that excite you? What in the environment do you see that makes you feel there is hope for women's representation in politics?
Yes, I've seen a lot of policy change, especially in Zimbabwe. You know, the role played by the non-governmental organization, they influence a lot of policy change in terms of, you know, the role of women in the political scene. And they have influence in many dimensions, in many sectors. So I think women have played a greater role, especially women outside, you know, active politics. But there's one thing that is amiss, that we are moving on a parallel line where, you know, we have politicians on the other side, we have the human rights and women's group activists on the other side, and we have never got to a situation where we come together and we fight as one. And this is what is required in Zimbabwe. If you look at the background where we have some freedom fighters who are going through the same experience that even today's woman is going through, the issue of discrimination, the issues of rape, they can be shared more with the, you know, the existing organization, because it's a replica, whatever is happening, the kind of oppression, it comes from, so, you know, right from the struggle.
Working together is critical.
Working together is critical, and it's very critical in the sense that if you look at the situation in Zimbabwe today, looking at giving an example of the just ended elections, honestly, instead of rising up 33 years after independence, if you look at the percentage of the elected members, it was almost 12%. And because of that constitutional quota system of 60 seats, we have 25%. But it's 33 years after independence. When we have women in majority, we always claim that we're 52%.
So is
in terms of population. And you are saying for Zimbabwean women, we are advantaged in the sense that we have gone all through the process. We held a gun. We didn't escape rubber bullets. We participated. We played an equal role even in the bush. But when we came to power sharing table after liberation struggle, then that's where the discrimination started from. So I think we need to claim back what is ours, right from the start to what we are. And I think what we need to fight as one. You know, there's this problem where Zimbabweans have been let down because we do undermine each other, and we undermine the work that we do. We undermine our roles. I'm telling you, and women have created that platform because they know with that situation they can rule. So what we need is that to come together and build a strong force that can be able to forge ahead with them.
And I think Rabia gave us the example that there are men who are willing to walk this path with us. Yes. And so togetherness is really critical. Rabia, let me come to you now. And Tunisia is still on the path. It's still moving and bubbling with all this energy, changing, fast changing. In this environment, that is still a challenging environment for leadership. What for you is exciting in terms of the space that could be created or is being created for women in politics?
First of all, I have to say that when I listened to DJ experience, I figured out that my decision to run for parliament is too late. So actually, as you said, that women should use her position as a parliamentarian, as a president, as a vice president. She has to use her position in order to increase awareness about gender equality and about women's position in every field. It's not only the political field, every field in the life. So you have to look for allies. As I said, you have to look for feminist men, because as we say, one hand does not applaud. One hand does not applaud. We have to look for other hands in order to do and to achieve our goals. And actually Tunisia now is in process of revolution. And I think that because of, or thanks to the powerful women in Tunisia, I really believe that we're gonna win. And I know that most of you know about Tunisian women, and we lately celebrate the National Day of Women in Tunisia. And believe me, I saw of many women there in the streets. In one word, we want freedom, we want equality, because people governing now in Tunisia, they really use, let me say, they use religion to oppress women, and I think that religion and Islam is innocent from these people and innocent from their deeds.
Thank you, and welcome to this segment where I'm going to be presenting some of the questions that have been asked by women in this conference that are addressed to you. To begin with, I'm very interested in the story of the young women, and particularly because at the age of 5, 11, 18, 23, a woman is usually under the custody of her parents. What was the parental support that you received? And what should we be doing as mothers of girl children to create more Rabias and Gigi's and Margarets?
Yeah. So, I think that I wouldn't do what I did if there is no family support, and especially mother support. My mother supported me a lot, and she believed on me. This is the main thing, because if they support you and they don't believe on your capacity and they don't believe that you're gonna win or you can do it, this is useless. But my mother believed on me more than I believed on myself.
Gigi, has this been your experience?
Definitely. Parental support is quintessential when you're going down this road, and you find that even around the world and even in different walks of life, whether you're a tennis player, a movie star, parents have had a significant role to play in your success, because you are challenging the status quo. You are going where no way is allowed to go. You're breaking barriers. And when you are traveling that road, you need somebody who is the power behind the throne, somebody who's your backbone, and somebody who will love you unconditionally, somebody who will have your best interest at heart. And we know that your parents will play that role very, very well. So when you're walking down this road, it's important for your parents to have your backing, so that when everybody in society is saying she's too young, she's the wrong gender, your mother and your father will say she's my daughter and she's good.
Excellent. Margaret, I know that you are a parent and you have a story about policy change that actually began as a result of being a mom. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, true. Some policy change, everything starts from the family. Even the issue of gender we are talking about is concerned about how you grow up a family. The issue of feminism, issue of violence, everything that you talk about, it starts from a family. So if we consider seriously, how we run our families, then honestly we'll be able to sail through, even if we fight for women empowerment, because we've undermined the role of a woman right from being a girl child. So that's one thing that is important, that needs to be taken care of. As you have heard from my colleagues, that that family support is very important. We need to place every child, regardless of sex, wherever he or she is, or to give them enough support. In terms of policies, yes, as a family mother, it differs, because you're going into policy making as a family, as a mother, and you know what is required, both for the family and also for the general public, because you are part of the system. So your influence is much more, it's greater, and in terms of knowledge of issues, and also the experience on the ground. You are using your experience on the ground to turn it into politics. And this is what is required in most cases. It's not about you reinventing the wheel, but it's about taking your experience to Parliament and share it with your colleagues, and then develop that to be policies to address some of the issues that you are facing within your family, path to power.
Thank you. I have another question here, which says, when politics is about power and not the common good for the people, there's no convergence of goals. Can women return politics from power to people's needs?
Yeah, of course, yes. Because you can get your power from the people. And if people support you, this really can give you power. I'm a good connection with my voters, and even the people who are sympathizing with me. And I think it's really great, and it's really important to be connected to people, because men have a really huge mistake that they are doing. At least most of them, they forgot about people and about the community. And I want to ask every woman here who is thinking about running for office or for the Parliament, is that the key of power and the key of success is to keep attached to your people. This is your way to succeed and to be elected again. I have a family. I have a big family of people of my community, and they all support me. They feel bad, and they even ask about me and about the assassination of my colleague. People ask me, come home, forget about this politics, we want you alive, we want you safe. And you feel attached because these people care about you, and they consider you as their daughter or as their sister.
Still talking around that theme of the family and the community, there's a question here that says, how best can indigenous women be empowered politically, socially, economically, but still preserve the rich traditions, the culture, the community, what makes us proud and unique as Africans? Margaret?
One thing that you also need to remember is that culture is dynamic, and things change. We are in the 20th century. There are some of, our cultural, our traditional norms that stand as barriers in terms of women development. So I think such things have to change. But anyway, in any case, we are all Africans. And I think when a woman comes into Parliament or goes into power and decision-making position, the idea is not about changing the culture. The idea is about improving the culture in order to change the women's life. So the culture still remains because we need it. And you can even change things without actually focusing much on the culture. Yes, you can have other aspects, but there are so many ways, especially in this situation where we have constitutions. Even cultures are being governed by the constitution on how they should also function. So that's the role that can be played by women in politicians, to make sure that everything that we talk about that oppresses women is part of the constitution, and then is dealt with within the constitution.
Gigi, you wanted to add to that?
Yes, yeah, to the both the questions that you asked. You know, I tend to say the mistake that we probably make is separating community and power when talking about politics. You know, because at the end of the day, we cannot deny that politics have, to a large extent, are significant, are fundamental, and even influence the way a country is run, the nation's well-being, welfare, the economy, and so on and so forth. And that means that it's crucial to have women representing us as other women at such high decision-making level. Okay, so it's important for us to realize that the reason why as women we have so many grievances but they go unheard or they're not listened to or they fall on deaf ears is because we don't have that representation. And that representation, we're talking about power, we're talking about authority, we're talking about influence, we're talking about us being the missing face in decision making. We're talking about us being on the periphery of our political systems. So without that, we cannot change the political game from being a battle of pushing our personal agendas to being about the community. So it's important for us to have that starting point of having that power and influence to make such decisions. And then just quickly to add on to what she was saying when you're talking about culture, I think the problem once again is that when we talk about politics, we talk about laws and so on and so forth, we tend to shun our culture, and particularly us as Africans. You know, when you're talking about bringing about change, particularly in Africa, you need to make sure you incorporate our diverse religious traditional practices. It's important for you to incorporate our religions. Why? Because to a large extent, they influence our individuality, our community, our society, and our nation. So if I'm going to be advocating for reforms, if I'm going to be advocating for protocols and other agendas, but I'm not incorporating in our culture, and I'm shunning it, looking down on it, obviously the women who are into this practice will feel out of place, like they will not fit in and it's not that place. So it's important as decision makers, as activists and advocates, that as we are talking about the gender equality, bringing everything into the table, let us talk about culture and religion.
Right. I want to zone in a little bit on the area of sexual and reproductive rights. There's a lot of conversation concerning culture and the interaction between sexual and reproductive rights. What are some of the strategies that you can put forward for women to be able to address these issues and to address them in the cultural contexts? Because there are a lot of challenges there.
Can I just say this? As somebody who's coming from a background of culture, you know, like in my country, we have customary and common law, and, you know, sometimes we have clashes between customary and common law. And you find that in cases where women and the girl child fall victims of such cultural practices, there's a bit of ignorance. Ignorance in the sense that they don't know the channels that they can go to complain and so on and so forth, because there are some cultural practices that are held in high regard, especially in remote rural areas. And of course, some of these are even backed by customary laws. Like in my country, you find that when you're 16-year-old, by customary law, you can get married. Okay, so, you know, for me, I believe in being constructive. I also believe that everything you want to do, you should start from the grassroots level. So for me, to answer your question, I would say we need to make sure we bridge the gap between men and women, and by doing so, bridge it from the grassroots level, the way in which a girl and a boy child is raised. There are so many barriers, obstacles, there are so many taboos, misconceptions, myths, there's so many things in our African cultures that create that disparity. I mean, for this day and age, the disparity between men and women is just unbelievable, and it's fueled by the cultural beliefs and practices that are there. So from the grassroots level, the way in which a boy and a girl child is raised, the way they are groomed, the way they are nurtured, the way they are made to see the world, the opportunities that are available to them, the environment in which they are raised, and the people they interact with, and even the amount and quality of education and empowerment that is availed to each one of them is one that is ultimately going to define that, because we are moving towards saying that equality, being just and equal, means giving a boy child the same education, empowerment and opportunities as you'd give the girl child, so that later on in life we won't say you are limited to doing this and that.
This is boys' work and this is girls' work.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, ladies. It's been such an honor to be able to present to you the questions that have come from our audience. I'm going to hand the session back over to Julie now for the wrap.
So ladies, to wrap up now, I'd like each of you to look into that camera. And Africa moving forward means women and men moving forward together. I want you to give us a vision of your ideal Africa and directly tell the Africans watching this show, what must we all do collectively as women and as men to get to our ideal Africa? Margaret, I start with you.
First of all, I think men and women should fight hard to make sure that they change the life of the well-being of people in Zimbabwe, with more emphasis to Zimbabwean women. And the other issue that I would want to see happen is that women should stop crying about, you know, being appointed to positions or quota systems. I think it's high time women should fight. We need action. It's high time we should go back and conscientize our people. I think what we will need to develop is a program where we start to do walk and talk with our grassroots people. I think somewhere we are missing the point. We need to go back on the drawing board and re-strategize to find out where we have gone wrong. Because it's high time that we should be, you know, governing as partners, women and men. There's no reason why women should be crying foul every time, because we have participated in every effort, as I've said, right from the liberation struggle. And apart from that, in Africa we've had a lot of conflicts. And the effects of these conflicts are heavily felt on women. And I think this time men have to realize that women have got an important role to play. And women themselves, they have to realize the power that they have. Women have power, but they don't want to use that power that they have. And it's high time that women should come together and re-strategize and see how they can make their power become meaningful.
Thank you so much for that, Rabia. I want you to look. The camera is just going to position itself direct on you. So you're speaking directly to the audience. What must we all do as women and men to get ourselves to the ideal Africa?
Yeah, to women and then men.
Okay.
Actually, I want to say that it's only the first step which is hard. And if you do the first step, the other million steps that you're going to do are becoming easier and easier. Just do the first step, have the guts and the bravery to do it, and everything is going to be easy. For women, man is not your enemy. Man is your ally. So you have to raise the awareness of men in our community that we have to go hands in hand so that we can change our society. You can start, if you are not satisfied with what's going on in our community now, you can start with your children. As a mother, you can start to raise the gender equality with your children and to raise their belief that women have a strong and important position in this life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. You get the final word, Gigi.
Yes.
Look into the camera. What's your message to Africa?
Thank you. And holistically, 3 things, Julie. I envisage an Africa where everybody will be given a chance to succeed regardless of their gender, disability, misfortune, skin color, educational background, economic background, and any other obstacle. The second thing, I envisage an Africa where women are active agents of change. They're not the missing face in decision making. They are not on the periphery of the political system. And there aren't any barriers and obstacles, culturally, religiously, socially, economically, that disable them to achieve their dreams and to realize their goals and ambitions. And the last and very important, I envisage an Africa and a world at large made up of individuals who are proud to be citizens of their respective countries, who are accountable, who are responsible, who are active agents of change. And know that each and every one of us, regardless of where you are in the world, your age, your gender, or your current situation, you have a social responsibility to change the world, to contribute positively to society. You have the responsibility not to point a finger at anybody else, but to ask yourself, what am I doing? And you have the responsibility to get up and do it. Thank you.